I am Reed, just a normal 27-year-old guy talking about building wealth and getting your life together in your 20s. We need to talk about SpaceX, the latest shiny object distracting people from building actual wealth. Everyone's losing their minds over this IPO, shouting about trillion-dollar valuations and the future of humanity, while I am just here, sipping my coffee, wondering if anyone bothered to look at the actual numbers, because honestly, they don't make any sense. Complexity is a status signal for people who want to feel smart but stay poor. If you can't explain it to a 12-year-old, you are just gambling and you are going to lose. This isn't a company. It is a cult, a narrative, a grand vision. And people are throwing money at it like it is a lottery ticket, not an investment. You want to know the real value of SpaceX? Well, nobody does. Not even the people buying it. They not doing the math. They just hoping. And hope, my friends, is a terrible investment strategy. It is the kind of strategy that leads to poverty, not prosperity, because it sidesteps the boring, mundane discipline required for real wealth accumulation. SpaceX, short for Space Exploration Technologies Corporation, which, by the way, Space etc. would have been way funnier, just missed an opportunity there. It went public with an IPO of 555555555 shares at $135 a pop. That is $75 billion raised. Sounds like a lot, right? But here is the kicker. That is less than 5% of the company's total stock. And at that IPO price multiplied across all its shares, the company's market cap is almost $1.8 trillion. $1.8 trillion. Let that sink in. It is more than Tesla, which by this point should tell you that yes, Elon Musk is now not just a rich man, he is a very rich man, and you, my friend, are helping him get richer while taking on all the risk. Now, I know what you are thinking, but Reed, look at Tesla. It started small and now it is massive. And yes, Tesla had an incredible run, turning a $17 investment into thousands. A 44% annual return for 16 years, far exceeding the average 6 to 10%. But Tesla was a unique outlier, driven by a future vision of electric vehicles and Elon Musk's ability to execute. People bought into the potential, not the current profits. Because there weren't any, it was a bet on a single compelling idea: electric cars and a charismatic leader, Elon Musk. And for those who held on, it paid off handsomely. SpaceX, in some ways, mirrors that it is already a global leader in its business, launching Falcon 9 rockets like it is Tuesday, deploying Starlink satellites that generate billions. It has proven technology, a global communications network, and a vision for interplanetary travel. It is aerospace, its communications, and its AI all wrapped up into one, putting it at the forefront of everything. This sounds great on paper, doesn't it? It sounds like the kind of disruptive innovation that will make you rich until you look at the financials. And here is the brutal truth that most people are conveniently ignoring. Two of its three pillars are losing money, a lot of money. The space division, rockets, and all that flashy stuff posted a loss last year of $657 million and another $662 million in just the first 3 months of this year. That is almost $1.3 billion in losses in a little over a year for the core business that everyone associates with SpaceX AI. Its artificial intelligence wing, newly folded in, is a money pit, a massive expenditure without a clear way to recoup that money, projecting a $6 billion loss in 2025 and another $2.5 billion in just the first quarter of 2026. This is small change. This is billions of dollars being poured into ventures that are not yet profitable. What is keeping this hulking machine turning is Starlink connectivity, which generated almost $4.5 billion in profit last year and is on track to do the same this year based on its Q1 results. But overall, SpaceX is spending far more than it makes, posting a nearly $5 billion loss for 2025 and nearly as much in just the first 3 months of 2026 when it acquired XAI. So that valuation of somewhere in the $2 trillion range, SpaceX's assets don't add up to anywhere near that, and neither do its profits. To what extent it is speculation or, sensible forecasting, that is a matter of judgment, but it doesn't represent current profits. It is some sort of expectation of what they'll be in about 20 years' time. And that is a big guessing game. 20 years, my friends, is an eternity in the market. Where will anything be in 20 years' time? We can look to SpaceX SEC filing for some clues, because there is a regulatory obligation for it to acknowledge to shareholders what headwind risks are in the company's future. Starship, big promise, but big peril. SpaceX recognizes a lot hinges on development, testing, and deployment of Starship at scale. If we are unable to achieve sufficient launch cadence, reusability, and capability, our ability to execute our growth strategy would be materially and adversely affected. This is not a casual warning. This is foundational to their entire future. Other hurdles include unforeseen technical challenges, supply chain disruptions, manufacturing difficulties, loss or damage to the vehicle or other components, regulatory hurdles, or the need for additional design modifications. These kinds of disclaimers disclaimers are not unusual, but in the case of SpaceX, they are foundational to the point of being existential. SpaceX makes a point of acknowledging how it will rely on unproven technologies or technologies that do not exist or may require significant advancement. And such initiatives may not achieve commercial viability. They are literally telling you that their entire business model rests on a mountain of maybes and what ifs. Speaking of viability, do you know where a big part of SpaceX's current viability comes from? Our services are subject to risks related to supplying services to the US government. Let us talk about that. Today, it is about a man named Elon, and he is one of the greatest business leaders and innovators the world has ever produced. It is hard to deny that to the Trump administration. Musk is a known and valued quantity. Trump owes a great deal to Musk. Elon Musk gave around $75 million to his Donald Trump super PAC in the span of 3 months. President Trump must win to preserve the Constitution. He must win to preserve democracy in America. And I am not suggesting there is a direct exchange of favors here, but Musk owes a great deal to the Trump administration. SpaceX is one of the biggest government contractors in the United States. Almost its entire launch revenue outside of Starlink comes from the US government. And you might argue rightfully so. SpaceX has a near monopoly on the heavy and manned launch market, sending cargo and people into space. So NASA and the Department of War give it a lot of money, but back to the company's future facing risk. What if some or all of that were to disappear as quickly as, say, Elon Musk cleaned house with his Department of Government Efficiency, slashing contracts, and even other departments wholesale? Not saying it happened, just saying it is a risk, a very significant one. Your investment is tied to the whims of political tides, a very uncomfortable position for any rational investor on social media and AI, because key point here, X and the Grok chatbot are part of SpaceX. The company's regulatory filings point to increasing legislative and regulatory activity, platform moderation, intellectual property, product liability, data privacy, age restrictions, data disclosure, cybersecurity, export controls, consumer protection, all of which are not directly within SpaceX's control. From time to time, we are involved in litigation, investigations, and other regulatory proceedings, which could be costly, time-consuming, and divert management attention, materially adversely affecting our business. They re-saying they could get sued, and they do get sued. There are court cases and lawsuits having to do with everything from noise at SpaceX's data centers to environmental concerns over land swaps to property concerns over damage from rocket testing. And just to give you a window into a case dating back to the Biden administration and where legal issues can get very political, SpaceX has been sued even for the way it hires its talent. Again, lots of companies get sued, but not many get sued like SpaceX gets sued. And bottom line, Musk's biggest companies are intertwined, not just in the way that SpaceX suddenly gobbled up XAI earlier this year, but also in the way, for example, that Tesla simply owns shares in SpaceX, millions of them. This creates a complex web of interconnected risks, where a problem in one entity can cascade and affect the others, a financial domino effect waiting to happen. And over the years, all of Musk's biggest companies have, at various points, faced a very similar problem, which SpaceX continues to face today. We have a history of net losses and may not achieve profitability in the future. Our substantial level of indebtedness could materially adversely affect our financial condition. Translation, our massive amounts of negative money are a problem, a serious problem. One that is often brushed aside by the cult of personality surrounding Elon Musk, but one that could very easily sink your investment and managing all of these problems. This whole galaxy of risk, it all goes back to one man. As a fairly passive investor myself, I can tell you when I buy shares in a company, I don't really care all that much about telling the company how to do its job, even if my shares technically get me votes on important issues, but I derive a lot of confidence in knowing that the company is accountable to shareholders in a way that hopefully forces it to act responsibly and in all of our best interests. But even in going public with its IPO, SpaceX works differently. What is on sale to the general public today and all of those 500 million shares that sold as part of the IPO? Those are all class A shares. One share, one vote, a tiny smidge of control over the company. But there is another type of share that isn't ever for sale to the general public, and those are Class B shares. These are super shares, where one share is worth 10 votes. You know who controls almost all of the company's Class B shares, even after the IPO and after all the day trading that follows today? Elon Musk is figured to retain somewhere around 82% control of the company. This makes him unassailable as leader. Elon Musk has control over SpaceX in a way that we've never seen any individual hold over a publicly traded company. This means your voting power. Your voice as a shareholder is effectively non-existent. You are merely along for the ride, hoping for the best, with no ability to influence the direction of the company. And when your mission statement is as expansive as building, quote, the systems and technologies necessary to make life multiplanetary, to understand the true nature of the universe, and to extend the light of consciousness to the stars, maybe you need that kind of authoritarian control. It is literally written into the IPO that Musk cannot be removed as head of SpaceX without his own consent. If things go wrong, shareholders might want to replace him, and they simply want to be able to do that. This is not an investment. It is a donation to Elon Musk's grand vision. A gamble on a single individual's ability to defy all odds with no recourse if that gamble fails. So, look, SpaceX could be a defining generational opportunity to own a critical piece of the tech industry, or it could be a tech trap. A trillion-dollar gamble that needs the stars to align just right for it to pay off, but one thing is for sure, many investors will not be able to not own a stake in SpaceX. It is a bit like a gravity well pulling investment towards it, including even the most passive types of investments that will bundle SpaceX into their portfolios. It is just, if you are one of those, don't expect to get rich quick. The company has no immediate plans to pay out dividends, and the time has long passed to be an early investor, unless you are playing an incredibly long game, not measured in quarters or even calendar years, but rather in decades, and are comfortable with the inherent massive risks. Then you are just buying into the hype. My advice, the boring, monotonous advice that actually builds wealth, is to avoid these kinds of speculative plays. Focus on broad market index funds, diversify your portfolio, and understand that true financial freedom comes from patience and discipline, not from chasing the next big thing. Complexity is for people who want to feel smart. Simplicity is for those who want to be rich. Keep it simple, invest consistently, and let time and compounding do the heavy lifting. That is the only real path to financial security. Everything else is just noise and a waste of your precious capital. Don't let the siren song of $1 trillion valuation distract you from the proven, albeit boring, path to wealth.